Tiger fans, a bit of a pre-season video, and I didn't know whether I was going to do this one or not because it might come across as a bit like, yeah, and water's wet, so what? But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, no, you know what? I want to bring it up. I want to talk about it because you still got to learn to celebrate the small things in our journey, and it's an exciting thing or two things that were noticed along the way. And some people are going to say, Michaels, what are you doing, mate? Captain Obvious. Of course they've been doing work, like who cares? But I still thought it was really, really good to see. So the first one is, it's been awesome to see some images of Maurice Jr. back into the rigors of training with a group of players at a local gym. And again, I know that players are still doing stuff this time of year. I'm not under any disillusion. This is some magical thing that's just occurred overnight, but it's more because it's Maurice, right? And we all want Maurice to make it more than anybody because we see the raw ability that he's got. We know the pace that he's got. We've seen the rundown tackles. And yeah, you know, along the way, there has been some question marks on, I suppose, the conditioning and fitness side of his game when coming back from pre-seasons and then entering seasons. He's ended up becoming injured in pre-seasons and not getting a good run at it. But as the seasons have gone on, you can see, I think it's there to see that he's got the AFL traits that we want to be able to add the pace to our game in multiple positions, but we just need and want him to have a really good run at it in a pre-season. And I'm just really hoping and trying to put the positive energy out there into the universe that this would be the one, 2025 pre-season heading into 2026 season, that he's going to come in, hit the ground running day one and just shoot the lights out. And look, like I said, I've got no doubt all the players are doing work in bits and pieces, but I was just really thrilled to see Maurice doing his work early and hopefully getting himself absolutely primed and ready to go, because I know he's sort of earmarked as a small forward, but I think we can all agree that we've seen him do his best work further up the ground. I mean, in the VFL, he had that stint of 4 or 5 games in a row playing as a midfielder, and he was unbelievably good. And I know VFL and AFL is a different standard, but he was still finding the ball 20-odd times, getting his 6-7 plus tackles, being a good link up between D50 and forward 50. And then while we didn't see the centre bounce side of things at AFL level, hopefully we do this year or next year in 2026. But what we did see is we saw a bit of a shift in his game from not so much being a deep small forward or a stay-at-home small forward, because that really doesn't suit him. And I find he gets lost in games and that's how he fades in and out and doesn't have an impact, and then we all get shitty. But when he was pushing higher up the ground, getting in and around stoppages and contests on the wing and the half-back line, then being a link-up player through the middle of the ground or in handball chains, getting the ball out of stoppage, that I think was a really good move, and I want to see more of that in 2026. And I think him being ultra fit, ultra fast, which we know he already is, but I don't like using the word because of who it's been associated to in the past, but in a lot of ways, I see him as a barometer for us with the chasing pressure, the tackling pressure, and sometimes it's not even the tackles that he makes. It's the perceived pressure that it then creates to opposition players that, shit, Maurice is in the area, I better get rid of this quickly. And it can just cause those half a second quicker decisions that the opposition don't want to have to take that can cause some turnovers and play into our hands down the line. And it's so valuable, and I really want him to get a good crack at it for 2026. The other player that we've heard some bits and pieces about, and this was just getting a little bit too much to ignore, to be honest, because not only has there been people going past Punt Road on their own commute to work daily, seeing Josh Smillie out there at like between 7:30 and 8:30 pretty much every morning. I think even grand final morning he was out there doing his sprints, doing his run-throughs, laps around Punt Road Oval. But there's been, a little bit of conversation from certain people who would be in the know that are really excited about how he's tracking and what it's going to look like for 2026, which does, it creates a lot of excitement about what Josh Smillie offers. So to hear him doing the hard yards now still, after all the shit he's been through in 2025 with the conditioning, the injuries, it would have been a big year mentally to try and get through that. Like watching all your teammates and fellow draftees from the same year get their opportunities and get to play on the G and things like that, get a win or two. You want that for yourself, and I can only imagine how frustrating it must have been for Josh throughout the season. And then to kind of get really close to even recommencing back into the VFL program for their finals, and it's sort of all just not lining up and falling short. It was disappointing that he didn't get a chance to do that. But we've been able to see, even from the progress photos as the season's gone on with the conditioning, that he's really transformed himself. And I just can't help but feel that the tribulations and the annoyance and the frustrations of 2025 for him, I feel like he's the type of person that's using that as fuel for fire to set himself up for a massive 2026. And look, I don't know the kid personally, just the vibe I get from what you see and what you hear about him, it seems like that he's going to want to make a stance and announce himself to the Richmond Football Club and the Richmond members in 2026. He wants to join the party, and I'm all for it, and I can't wait to see what he looks like out on the AFL field. I think he's going to be an unbelievable addition, and like we've said, as simplistic of a view as it might be, but it's going to be like having a third first round high-end draftee in our ranks again this year. And we all saw it in the preseason of this year. He was tearing shit up. He was smashing it. The footage was there for everybody to see. He was manhandling players who have been there for 3 or 4 years. His kicking and handballing is obviously very, very good. But now if he's got that refined and renewed body, and they've adjusted the plan accordingly, we might get a bigger and better Josh Smillie than what we even thought we were getting to start with. And I think that's a really exciting prospect. So if you had to pick 2 players that you wanted to see massive pre-seasons from, just for their own sake and for the club's sake, I reckon they're the 2. So super keen to see how that works. And, we know that Josh, and he won't be able to play midfield for the full game from the start. And like what Sammy Lawler wouldn't be able to, and like what Taj Houghton won't be able to. That's just the nature of having to build your tank over multiple pre-seasons. But when he does get his chance in the midfield, it's going to be awesome to see. We might get to see at some stage a Smillie, Houghton, Lawler starting 3. How amazing would that be? Wouldn't even care if the ball went the other way the first time. Just to see what the future might look like is going to be good. I'm still trying to work out in my own mind, though, where Smiley's secondary position is. And like I said, I know that we all want him to play midfield, and he will play midfield, but he's not going to do that for the whole time he's on the ground. He will have to play a different role. And we know he's played halfback a little bit as a junior to really good effect. Is that an option? Or does he... It could be quite as simple as Lawler starts in the midfield, Smillie starts up forward, and they rotate. It honestly might be as simple as that. And I'd be equally as happy for that too, because that's going to be 2 really nice marking targets down forward with a lot of class and skill about them for when they're not in the midfield as well. So plenty to consider there. I'm keen to hear everyone's... I know I've asked this question before, but it's always good to see if people change their views on where Smillie could play in his secondary role. So let me know again in the comments below, where do you see him slotting into the side? And is there any other players that you'd like to see have a massive pre-season? Is there anyone else that you reckon needs to hit the ground running for week 1 of 2026 pre-season? If I had to pick my 2, it would honestly be those 2, Maurice Jr. and Josh Smillie, and it's just great to see him already out there getting in amongst it. And like I said, I know it's not earth-shattering. I know players from every club are doing stuff in their own off-season. I get it. But when you consider the year that Smillie in particular has had, I just thought that him being out there, working his ass off, showing great professionalism, great leadership was worth celebrating. And we need to celebrate those things. And we're right behind Smillie and Rioli Jr. And hopefully we see more of this heading into pre-season. So let us know anything in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe for more Tiger content. And until the next one, go Tigers.